This is your last chance. After this, there's no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland. I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. And that rabbit hole is called It's Always Sunny in Hollywood. Hello. uh,
What if I want the blue pill?
Hello
Well,
there.
then-
My name is Troy McGlure. The blue pill is called clicking the subscribe button. That's right below.
that's
the
the,
blue.
the subscribe button is the red button. What are you talking about?
I know that the bit was.
You
I was
take the
trying
blue
to trick
pill
people
to
into
hit the
clicking
red
it.
button.
Look,
Yeah.
there's two pills. One is the Matrix. One is Ghost in the Shell. Pick.
Yeah. Okay, no, the blue button is you click the like button. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, that makes
more
sense.
sense.
Blue
That-
pill,
there
you
you
click the
go.
like button. You take the red pill, you click subscribe. You
There
want to
you
take
go.
both. I don't know, dislike it.
You'll
Uh,
OD.
Anyway, hello there. Welcome to It's Always Sunny in Hollywood. I am your host, Red. Well, one of your hosts. Why don't you guys introduce yourself?
I am Patrick. I am host to number the second.
And I am Lugia, and I am a figment of your imagination.
Yes, or as we like to call him, the third stooge. So today we're going to be talking about Ghost in the Shell and The Matrix, two very influential, iconic movies. But before we do we're going to briefly talk about some news that happened over the last week in entertainment. So first off, Nirvana Nevermind Baby, the baby that's on the famous cover, is suing Nirvana, arguing that the cover is child porn. Okay, so are you guys a fan of Nirvana?
I
Not
know
a
a few
fan
of their
per se.
songs. Yeah. It's,
All right. Nirvana's like one of my favorite bands ever. Like easily my top 3 favorite bands. So I don't know, maybe I took a bit more personally. I actually I think this is a bullshit kind of lawsuit, but at the same time, it's probably not gonna cost them much money or whatever. So I'm for the most part pretty indifferent. I did make a joke tweet about this. It got 14,000 likes on Twitter, so that's kind of cool. Hell yeah.
How many followers do you have?
Like 60.
Well, that's dang impressive.
Yeah, and I got like 10 of those because of the tweet, so I probably should have promoted myself more.
All
but
right,
yeah.
show off.
Yeah, so the Nirvana Nevermind Baby and Chet Hanks have now given me my only tweets that have cracked 10K, so hell yeah. Anyway, my joke was that I just compared him to Baby Brent from Cloudy with a
Cloudy
Chance
with a Chance
of Meatballs.
Meatballs.
Yeah, I was saying that it's kind of weird that he's suing after being Baby Brent for the last 20 years.
Baby, you mean the Nirvana baby?
No, as in like you know how Baby Brent's whole
you-
character is that he could never move on from the fact that he was like famous as a
Yes,
little kid.
but you said he's suing because he's been Baby Brent all his life.
Yeah,
You mean the Nirvana?
metaphorically.
Okay.
Metaphorically,
okay.
he's been Baby Brent.
Okay,
his whole life.
I didn't understand the metaphor part.
Because
My
he's
apologies.
constantly, every like year he takes a recreation photo, and now he's suddenly saying, "Oh, it's done me irreparable harm," and I'm like, no, it hasn't. Also, I think it'd be kind of funny if he wins the lawsuit. That technically means that a good chunk of the population owns child porn and has purchased child porn because the Nevermind album is like one of the best-selling albums of all time. Everyone's heard at least one of the songs from it. You probably have a picture of it on your phone, like if you ever use like Spotify or whatever. But yeah, what a weird lawsuit case. Anyway, and I guess similar news, Michael Richards has been fired from Jeopardy.
Nah, this one I've seen all across the internet.
Yeah.
Apparently, I think right after this happened, people started a trend where they wanted Matt Pat from Game Theory to host Jeopardy.
No, that's a separate case. Matt Pat just released a video like yesterday where he was like, we should hire an edutainment YouTuber to do Jeopardy, and including me. Haha, here, sign a petition. Honestly,
I mean, that
kind
was
of
still a
scummy
response of sorts.
kind of a scummy move, but it's kind of funny that like he actually just had the balls to do it, being like, "Hey guys, you should hire me for
Fucking
Jeopardy."
imagine.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Michael Richards got fired because basically the second he got announced, reporters did their job and looked into this guy, and turns out that he's just like any other Hollywood producer and is a massive piece of shit. And of course, a couple of people got him confused with the other Michael Richards and got upset about what he said at the Laugh Factory. You guys know Kramer, right? From
Yeah.
Seinfeld. Yeah, his name
Oh
is Michael.
yes,
His
I
name
know what
is
you're
Michael
talking
Richards
about.
too.
Yes, I know that story about what he did at the Laugh Factory.
Yeah.
Oof, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. And other racially conscious news, Candyman reached #1 at the box office, so that's pretty cool.
And this is significant because not only did it dethrone Free Guy 2 weeks in, but it also managed to become the first film to reach #1 at the box office, directed by a woman of color. In this case, Nia DaCosta was the director. And
That's
what's
cool.
interesting is that she's only directed one other film, being a 2009 film called Little Woods. I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, no,
But
that's how
I've
a
never
lot of
heard
this
of it
stuff
either.
works. Most directors, they drop out an indie film, it gets some critical buzz, and then a studio just picks up and was like, all right, we got a movie we want you to make, and that's how it works. So
yeah, she's
um
also supposedly
yeah,
going to be the director of the upcoming Marvel film simply called The Marvels. So,
yeah,
she's making it big. She's making
yeah.
it big in the
Congrats to
world.
her.
Marvel
Ah.
loves to just sweep up indie directors to part of me wants to think, oh, they want to support the industry, but the more cynical side of me thinks that indie directors are less likely to fight back. So, speaking of which, have you guys seen the original Candyman?
No.
No, I've never seen any iteration of Candyman.
The first one is pretty good. Granted, I know you guys aren't too hot into slasher movies, but I think it's also like just a pretty good mystery movie on its own. So, shit, maybe I should have said that like in the recommendations for movies similar to Scream. Now that I think about it, because Candyman is kind of similar to Scream. But yeah,
So is this a remake or a continuation?
it is a sequel, kind of like the Halloween sequel from like a few years
Uh-huh.
back. The one that's also called Halloween. Yeah, I don't know why studios are doing this nowadays, making a sequel with the same name.
Just like how next
Yeah,
year
because
there's going
that
to be
assumes it's like a reboot or a
Ne-
remake.
yeah, next
Yeah,
year
it's
there's
not a
also going
it's
to be
not a
another
reboot,
Scream
it's a sequel.
movie, and they're just calling it Scream.
Yeah, although that one I think is a reboot, not a sequel.
Oh,
But yeah,
all right.
this one's more of like when Rocky 6 was called Rocky Balboa.
Hollywood, be more creative with your titles, please.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Although
search these movies.
yeah. Although unrelated note, Rocky 6 is like the second best Rocky movie after the original, honestly, or at least like tied with Creed. I recommend you check out Rocky Balboa if you haven't seen it. Anyway, Ed Asner passed away at age 91. He's a pretty big voice actor. You probably know him as from Up, The Boondocks, and several other high-profile animated roles.
I feel like our generation primarily knows him for Up and also playing Santa and Elf.
Yeah.
At least that's how I know him.
Yeah. I knew him from those two and also The Boondocks, where he played Ed Wuncler. Not not
Not Lorax Onceler.
yeah.
Totally different.
Although it might have been a reference, honestly, like to the book, not Tumblr. Anyway, last news is Olivia Rodrigo got some plagiarism accusations, or sort of. She's had to credit a couple people, like her song "Good for You" has got writing credits for Haley Williams from Paramore because many people drew comparisons to whatchamacallit, Misery Business. She doesn't care though. Elvis Costello doesn't care. Honestly, the only person that really seems upset is Courtney Love and maybe some lawyers. But yeah, ever since Robin Thicke lost that lawsuit, the copyright stuff in the music industry has become kind of a mess. Anyway, let's talk about the movie.
All right.
So we're gonna start off with the Matrix because that's the one that everyone knows. So some fun facts. It was directed by the Wachowskis, who have since come out as trans and have actually revealed that some aspects of the story could be read as a trans metaphor. The pill, Neil getting dead named. A lot of the aesthetics were definitely drawn inspiration from LGBT scenes at the time. Another fun fact is when pitching the movie, they actually paid some artists to fully illustrate and storyboard out some action scenes so they could give the studio the idea of what they were going for, since it's For such a visual movie, you kind of need to, show them something so they understand what you're going for. So yeah, should we just jump into the plot?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. So the story follows a hacker called Neo. Well, his hacker alias is Neo. His real name is
Thomas Anderson.
Thomas Anderson. I forgot what his first name was. Yeah. So basically, he works as a hacker. He works in some shitty cubicle, 9 to 5 office job during the day. Anyway, so one day, some of his clients for his illegal business take him to a club where he meets a woman named Trinity, who is also a hacker, or at least used to be, and she basically warns him that some essentially men in black are going to be chasing after him. Oh, speaking of which, there was a cold open in the beginning where some men in black, or agents as they're called, chase Trinity. But yeah, so then anyway, next day at work, agents come in and he gets a call from Morpheus, and who basically tells him how to escape, but eventually he gets caught anyway and gets interrogated by these agents, who then start to warp reality, scaring the shit out of him. Wakes up in bed, runs into Trinity, where they take him to Morpheus. Morpheus says, "Hey, the world you live in is not real. I can show you, or you can just
Red pill or
continue to
blue
live your
pill?
life as normal. The choice is yours. I only offer you the truth." Neo took the red pill, which has unfortunately become a really shitty meme, and then he wakes up in reality where he learns that his entire life has just been a computer simulation, as basically the same shit that happened in Terminator happened, where there was a machine uprising that took over the world, and in real life it's actually like 100 years in the future, 200 years in the future, instead of
Something like that. They lost count, they said
Yeah.
in the movie.
Yeah, they said their best guess is 2,199, and the movie, was released in 1999, so
So
about
200
200 years. But they have no idea for sure.
Nope.
But yeah, they basically live in some messed up, horrible, like
Dystopian future.
dystopian future. Yeah.
Yeah.
We then learn that the Matrix is this big computer simulation that the machines basically use to keep humanity in check, and also use them as batteries, essentially. I guess a much more better idea than sending killer robots back in time. Basically, they start training inside the Matrix. We kind of go through some anime training montage, and I'm going to reference anime maybe a few times here because this is very heavily influenced by more anime than just Ghost in the Shell. Like the fight scenes, they're straight out of like shonen, Dragon Ball type shit.
Well, then again, Ghost in the Shell is also anime.
Yes, I know. I'm saying I was going to reference other anime
Yeah.
besides Ghost in the Shell. But yeah, a lot of martial arts wuxia influence in a lot of the fights. Wuxia is like the Hong Kong action stuff. But yeah, so they go through a training montage. Then eventually they meet an Oracle, who then, oh right, Neo's told that he's the chosen one that's going to save everyone. Oracle tells him he's not, at least not yet. He has to make a choice, and eventually they go inside the actual Matrix. After they leave the Oracle, they get ambushed by agents because in an earlier scene we learned that one character, also spoiler alerts from here on out, we learn another character named the traitor. What's his name again?
Cypher.
Cypher. Sorry, Dilly.
Yes, Cypher. Cypher basically makes a deal with the agents, specifically Agent Smith, who's basically the head agent. He basically hates his life. He's like, you know what?
He wishes
Ignorance
he
is
took. He
bliss.
wishes he took the blue pill.
Yeah, he wishes he took the blue pill. Ignorance is bliss. He knows that life is fake, but it's a better life than what he's living. So he decides to sell everyone out. So basically, after they leave the Oracle, they get ambushed by the agents. Morpheus gets kidnapped, and Cypher comes out and essentially kills half the crew. And but luckily, one of them survived and was able to kill him. After that, Neo decides to go in to save Morpheus. Trinity comes with them. They have the big action climax. And eventually, he has a one-on-one fight with Agent Smith, where he learns to master the Force and basically becomes Jesus. And then the movie ends with the Rage Against the Machine playing as he flies into the sky like Superman. Banger ending. Anyway, this movie, when I first saw it, the very first time years back, I thought it was pretty good. Didn't love it, but on rewatch, this movie is fucking amazing. This is
Yeah.
great.
When you're
I
a
had such
kid
a
and
good
you're
time.
watching this movie for the first time, like you don't tend to notice like any themes or like major like
The only thing is I saw,
relevancies in the plot. You're just there for the action.
yeah. So I saw this when I was a kid, once in high school, and then now, and I basically liked it each time more.
This is basically a movie that can manage both style and substance at the same time.
Basically, yeah. And some people argue that some of the later movies lean too much into either direction to the point where it becomes obtrusive. But this one really kind of hit
It's a
that
good
perfect
balance.
Yeah.
balance. Basically, it was able to, the way I see it, I think they draped this incredibly intricate world and ideas onto essentially the same framework that Star Wars had, a classic hero's journey. You know, young man has some shakeup in his life, and then he goes on this epic adventure where he has some master and like a love interest that trains him to eventually grows into a new person, and then the big climax where he kicks ass and becomes a hero. And I personally feel this movie has like a ton in common with Star Wars. Like I'd argue this is the only movie that has ever come remotely close to capturing the phenomenon that was Star Wars. You could
Even if
argue
you've never
maybe,
even seen The Matrix, you've most likely heard about it through
yeah,
word of mouth, internet
Or
memes.
seen other movies that have tried to imitate it.
Yes, there are
yeah,
a lot of them. Hell, Shrek even imitated it once.
yeah.
Yes,
The
it did.
Matrix. The Matrix is essentially one of those movies I like to call it the movie you've already seen before you've seen it, because there's been referenced so much in cultural osmosis. You basically already know the major scenes before you even go in. Despite that, though, still incredibly effective. This isn't like a mystery thriller or anything, so there's nothing.
Things play out how you expect them to, but how it's
Yeah,
handled is incredibly well done.
yeah. I really like how like the whole like first like half hour like of the movie is all just like built up, and it goes really good setting the stage. There's also, oddly enough, not that much exposition in the beginning, because like you're not given an explanation of who Morpheus is. You just kind of figure it out through context clues that he's
Yeah,
like this big
Yeah.
deal.
much like Neo, you're like, what the hell is going on? And they say, we're gonna give you answers.
Yeah, like the only real exposition scene is when Morpheus is like telling Neo about the Matrix. That scene is so cool, you don't care. Like you want to know
And they
because
do
like
it all in the white
they
room.
spent like 40 minutes building up this mystery of what is this Matrix, that when you get the explanation, it's catharsis,
I feel like this is a good example of a movie that gets better and better as it goes on.
Yeah. I was impressed by some of the horror they'd had in the movie. Like when that his mouth got shut, I was like, that shit was actually kind of fucking
I remember the
freaky.
belly button bug disturbing me when I
Oh,
first saw it.
yeah.
It disturbed me more when they took it out because there was like some blood left, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie to me kind of feels like the mix of like Terminator 2 and Star Wars. All three of those movies, groundbreaking technology. They're all sci-fi. They all had very unique aesthetics that for the next decade, people try to copy it, and to diminishing returns. And there's even like I figured Morpheus, he's essentially just like another version of like the Obi-Wan archetype, and Neo's essentially nothing like Luke in the way he learns to master the Force, learn how to control the Matrix. Essentially the same kind of arc there. So, but that's all just foundational. The actual movies are incredibly unique and different from each other.
Have
So
you
what did
guys seen? Have you guys seen any of the sequels? Just out of curiosity.
I have
I've
not.
seen I've seen all three of the sequels when I was a kid, but I've only rewatched the second one, so I don't remember anything about the last movie.
I caught like a little bit of the third one on TV a few years ago, but it was just like 15 minutes of it.
The only thing I know
Um,
about the sequels is that they have werewolves.
What?
I don't remember werewolves.
The werewolves?
Something like that, yeah.
From my
Okay.
memories, my opinion of the Matrix trilogy is the exact same as the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. As in, the first one is essentially a perfect film. The second one in many respects does some things better, but overall is a little bit less tight. And the third one kind of lost me, and I didn't really care for it that much, but it's a fine ending, I guess. I mentioned Terminator 2. One thing I want to mention is I was very surprised when I learned this movie was rated R, because for some reason this movie just screamed PG-13 to me.
I think
Like
some
even
of the
like
more
even
disturbing scenes might have to do with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe. I don't even think like my parents realized this was PG-13 because for years I thought the first R-rated movie I saw was Child's Play, but then I saw that this was rated R. I was like, oh, I guess it wasn't because I know I saw The Matrix when I was in elementary school. I saw Child's Play in middle school.
Maybe it was rated PG-13 back then, and they changed
No, it
it to
wasn't.
rated
They
R.
don't change ratings.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
They don't change ratings. You get rated once and that's it forever. Unless like you release a completely new cut and you get it aired in theaters. Because the rating system's only for theaters. On DVD, they don't give a fuck. That's why
Yeah.
most director's cut and stuff is unrated because it's not airing in a theater. Why would they rate it?
You can do whatever you want, almost.
Yeah.
I guess some other aspects of the film I liked was the soundtrack. There was a lot of upbeat techno that played during a lot of the action scenes.
Yeah.
Those were pretty hype.
Yeah.
Really
Speaking of
start
those action scenes, like,
pacing.
God, everyone knows of bullet time. Neo, like, bending over to avoid bullets. The agent just, like, moving so fast you could see multiple after images of him.
But even like some of the non like when they first go into the bank and they just shoot the guns, that's not like really super crazy choreography, but it's still really well like shot and edited with clear focus. It's
There's
just
still a distinct style to it.
yeah.
When I first saw this movie, my parents they thought to themselves, they told me, we don't know, it's been years since we've seen this. We don't know how well it holds up, so maybe like the visuals and everything aren't going to seem that impressive to you. No, these visuals still really hold up over 20
Yeah.
years later.
Yeah, and that's what surprised me the most. This is a over 20-year-old film, and it still looks really good.
Yeah.
I will say the one thing
I'm
that
surprised by how
did
like
show.
low the budget was too. Like it was only $60 million.
So I'm gonna say the one effect that did kind of show a bit of age was like the machines. You can
I
tell
thought you were
the
gonna
rent.
say the mirror.
No,
No,
I thought
I
the
thought
mirror was pretty
Yeah, I
good.
thought the mirror was the machines though, you could tell their rendering isn't quite as strong. But
Yeah,
they don't really appear that much, so it's not a big deal.
yeah. The belly button bug, like I thought looked a bit off, but its uncanniness kind of added to the freakiness of the scene, so it didn't
Yeah.
bother me too much.
Everything else though is still very impressive.
Upon rewatch, some details I really like some of the subtle details in the characters, especially with like Cypher, obviously, but even like with Morpheus and Neo and Trinity, like a lot of details I picked up on their characters. So yeah, they all have pretty strong character arcs. I also really liked what was it? I thought it was a neat detail how all the scenes inside the Matrix are tinted green and all the scenes out in Xeon aren't.
Yeah, like this movie has an iconic color palette. Like you see the shade of green, you instantly know it's the Matrix.
You see tinted green, black leather, it's the Matrix.
Yeah.
Just a very
Assholes wearing
iconic look.
sunglasses at
Yes.
night and black suits.
I don't know. I always found the Asians to have a little bit of an unsettling look to them. I don't know, just the like their blank expression and the sunglasses and the fact that literally anybody can morph into one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought
Also-
Agent Smith
Little
alone was a
unnerving.
very intimidating villain just
Yeah.
because of how he talks.
Yeah, Hugo Weaving did a great performance. Definitely my favorite performance of the bunch. I will say, I think a slight part of the uncanny effect is kind of because Hugo Weaving got a weird face. No insult, you're still a good-looking man, but your face is just goofy enough where it looks like a little bit like it's like CGI. It doesn't like look real.
We're talking about
I- I felt that this movie was pretty good at capturing some anxieties of like the time and give some solid commentary on the turn of the century. And a lot of what it comments are still pretty relevant to this day.
Like how we perceive reality, who we really are as
Yeah.
people. There's a lot of religious subtext in here.
yeah.
Yeah, and obviously just the whole relationship with the internet. Honestly, I've seen so many movies from the 90s about the internet and even like the late 80s. And I'm very surprised by like just how on the money people got it. Like you think with like most sci-fi stuff, like most of it is like, oh, like Back to the Future, like, oh, that's not how the future was. Almost every sci-fi movie I've seen from the 90s that's specifically like about the internet, they nailed it. They got the internet right, like 100%. Like that's exactly how things turned out. I'm like, huh,
I feel
kind
a
of freaky.
similar case happened with Metal Gear Solid 2. That was a script written in 1999, and a lot of
Yeah,
its commentary on just our social system and our reliance on technology eerily holds up 20 years later.
yeah, but
I
like
don't know
you got,
if like that was taken from this movie or whatnot, but
I don't know. I feel like a lot of Japanese media in general seem to have like a good finger on the pulse when it came to the internet because like most of the ones I've seen, like Serial Experiments Lane, Perfect Blue, Pulse, Ghosts in the Shells, we're going to talk about soon. They're all have pretty good commentary on the internet, and obviously Metal Gear Solid as well. So I'm like, huh, they must have known something that. Well, I mean, I guess I can't say they knew something everyone else didn't because obviously the Matrix got it too. But yeah, yeah,
Are they?
it's a
Isn't
neat
like
little pattern.
isn't like a robotic humanoid figure in the works in science right now?
yeah. Tesla's trying something, and Disney's Imagineers have already created like really realistic robot stuff. It's kind of
Yeah, yeah,
freaky.
the whole Tesla thing. So
Yeah.
you know,
No,
maybe
but
we're
you gotta keep your eye on Disney. Disney's building a robot army, huh? One of the days it's gonna be like that Itchy and Scratchy Land episode of The Simpsons, where all the animatronics just start turning on humanity.
I do remember at one point Disney had like a working Wally robot,
Yeah.
but but they got rid of it because it kept crushing guests' feet.
Oh.
He just wants a hug.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I give this movie like a 9 out of 10. Might even bump it to a 10 out of 10 one day. I can see why Ben Shapiro loves this movie.
I'd give it a 9.5 out of 10. The only part that I wasn't really too keen on was Cypher's betrayal. I'm not against the idea entirely. I just think how it was handled was a little off. Because we
I
have that
agree.
restaurant scene before then where he's just talking to the agent, like, man, I
And
fucking
it's
hate
like,
it here.
yeah, I feel like that scene. I don't know. I feel like maybe they could have maybe put that when he's explaining himself. I don't know. I feel it because that kind of gave away. Oh, I'm not actually. I think it
No,
would have made more
I mean,
impact.
I guess. I thought it was a pretty good scene. My only question is like, how did he have the meeting without anyone like knowing that he went into the Matrix? Did people just go into the Matrix like casually for fun? Like, I figured it'd
Don't
be a
the
lot of
agents
work to
know
go.
when one of the people from the outside world enters the Matrix?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, we saw that they needed like an extra person to help them get in and get out. So like, but did someone like, who did Cypher get to help him get in and out of the Matrix when he met with the agents?
I don't know, maybe we missed a detail, but still
I don't
seems
know.
weird.
Yeah.
It's a plot hole. I think it's just a plot hole, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter.
Also,
Yeah. Yeah.
before we move on, let's talk about the cast a little bit. So I believe this is
Let's
our first movie with Keanu Reeves
Yes, but our second
Yes.
one with Carrie Ann Moss.
and Joe Pantoliano, who were
Yeah,
both
oh
in
yeah,
Memento.
they were both in Memento. How about that? Lawrence Fishburne was also in Apocalypse Now, so
What do you
he
know?
is a recurring guy
Huh.
too. Our first Keanu movie. That's pretty cool.
Any other familiar faces, or is that it?
Um.
Well, I recognize the two other a few of the other people in the crew, but I don't think they're in any of the previous stuff we've seen.
Yeah. Other than these guys, I don't really recognize anybody else.
Oh, just a minor detail. I felt really bad when Mouse died for some reason. Like the other ones, not as much. I mean, except the blonde lady. Like, actually no. I think the deaths hit pretty strongly for the most part. There was only one character whose death I didn't really care for much. It was like the first person that Cypher pulled the plug on. I forgot what his name was.
I don't even remember his name either.
Yeah, but
But
all
he
the
he
others,
was one of the brothers that was actually born in the real world, right?
I don't think so.
Oh, right. You're talking
No,
about
those
the.
guys were in the real world. They didn't.
Oh
They
yeah,
didn't go in
right,
the Matrix.
right,
Yeah,
right. When he,
those deaths did hit pretty hard. I thought.
sorry, when you said pull the plug, I thought you meant like like shoot them, but no,
No, I meant like
I forgot.
literally putting
Literally,
the
yes,
pledge on their head.
literally. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's late
Um,
when we're recording this.
Yeah, the blonde lady. I didn't care for her character much, but when she said "not like this," it's like that's a memorable way to go out. So anyway, I want to talk about Ghost in the Shell now.
Yeah, let's do
Sure.
it. I feel like
Right,
we've
Ghost
said
in the
all we need to
Shell.
say about the Matrix.
All
Oh,
right,
yeah.
so Ghost in the
Check it out if
Shell.
you ain't already.
Yep. So Ghost in the Shell is an animated movie from an anime movie from 1995. So just 4 years before The Matrix. It is directed by Mamoru Oshii, who directed the Patlabor Mecha series. It's also based on a manga, though it apparently has very little similarities to the manga. Even the Major was redesigned to be a bit more serious. Fun fact, the sequel is one of the only animated films to compete at Cannes. The other three are Peter Pan and Shrek 1 and 2. It's kind of funny that Shrek 1 and 2 went were the only animated films to compete at the most prestigious award in film history. Kind of hilarious. Anyway,
Just goes to show you how much of an icon Shrek really is.
yeah. So
How
Oshii's
unstoppable a force. I'm sorry. Continue.
yeah. So Oshii's influence or inspiration on the movie was that he wanted to explore the influence and power of computers. This movie obviously drew some inspiration from Blade Runner, so I thought that was an interesting sort of cyclical thing. You know, Japanese guys influenced by Blade Runner, which is an American movie, and then some Americans got influenced by, him and made The Matrix.
But the question is, what influenced Blade Runner? How deep does this rabbit hole go? I want to know.
Blade Runner is influenced by some books in the cyberpunk genre, like Neuromancer. No, Blade Runner is a book adaptation. Blade Runner was inspired by Andrew's Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick.
What inspired Philip K. Dick? I'm sorry.
We
We'll
can
figure this.
keep going down this rabbit hole as much as we want.
I think Philip K. Dick was just inspired by like science fiction in general. He's just a science fiction.
But what
dude.
inspired? No, just carry on with Ghost in the
science
Shell.
fiction. What inspired science fiction is human imagination of wondering what the future could be like.
But what inspired? No, just keep going. I could.
God, I guess. Okay.
What inspired God?
No, I don't think we could go any further than that.
I mean, God made it in His own image, so God got inspired by Himself.
Okay. Anyway.
So the setting is actually based on Hong Kong, which I thought was interesting. He figured he couldn't really create a completely new future out of thin air, so he figured, all right, well, I'll just base it off of Hong Kong a bit. This is one of the first movies to combine traditional and CG animation, and it was apparently a box office failure, but was a huge hit on home video, which it grossed like 50 million on home video. It also later spawned a media franchise, including a sequel film, a reboot film trilogy, and a live-action movie, and multiple anime TV show sequels. The common consensus is that the sequel and the TV show standalone complex are good. So, if you like this movie, check out Ghost in the Shell 2 and Ghost in the Shell standalone complex.
I'm gonna be honest for a second. Prior to watching this movie, the only thing I knew about Ghost in the Shell is that it is what inspired the Wachowskis to make The Matrix. Other than that, I knew like nothing else.
Yeah, so I'm probably the biggest anime fan here, so I was very familiar with The Matrix just because of that. You know, it's up there with Akira as probably the two most influential anime films in the West.
Lugia, what's your experience
both for
with
cyberpunk.
I've only heard the name. I've never seen it for myself. I just know it inspired a lot of things. That's about it.
Anyway, so the plot. Essentially, this is just a police procedural movie that explores the idea of what if you could hack into someone's mind. No real point dwelling into the plot that much because it's basically just a mystery, Silence of the Lambs type cat and mouse mystery thriller.
It's pretty straightforward in terms of narrative. I think its themes, though, are its most complex aspects.
Yeah, thematically, I think it's even more complex than Matrix, or at least maybe because it's not as straightforward in exploring the themes. It rather just shows you and lets it sink. Lots of still shots where you are kind of left to sort of wonder what's going on in some characters' heads and stuff. Before we continue, you guys see the dub or the sub?
I saw the sub.
I saw the sub too.
Okay, this is interesting, but I initially started watching the subbed version on YouTube, but then I remembered, oh wait, I technically own this movie. So I got the DVD and it's the dubbed version. So
All right, so cool. What'd you think of the performances between the two? Actually, since you've seen both.
well, I mean with the dubbed version, it's not great, but I feel like that's kind of to be expected. I
Yeah,
mean,
anime dubbing didn't really get good until, let's say, Cowboy Bebop is like the first particularly good one, and then the 2010s is when just everything was good. So yeah.
well, to get back
Yeah.
into Ghost in the Shell for a second, from what I did see of the subbed version, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there were some moments where there were subtitles, but there was no dialogue being spoken.
Yes, I noticed that. I don't know if
That
that was a
was
problem with YouTube because I saw it off of YouTube.
I
But
think that was just a problem with the fact that in Japanese the words are probably shorter, but in English they're a lot longer. So yeah,
maybe I
it's
don't
just
know. It
it was
wasn't a
just
game breaker. It was just weird.
it
that
only
was just an issue
happened a
with the
handful of
subtitles.
times. It wasn't too distracting.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Did that
I
happen in the
thought
dub version?
No, actually, they had the dialogue that wasn't spoken.
yeah, okay. So it was probably just an unfortunate side effect of translation. All right. So anyway, visually, this movie's breathtaking. I thought like it had so many memorable shots and visuals. I thought it was so well animated. Like I think visually, this movie is. I think it holds up remarkably well.
The backgrounds in this movie are just mwah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think presentation overall is top notch, especially for 1995. I
Mhm.
kind
yeah,
of got some Cowboy Bebop vibes from it. That might
yeah.
just be me though.
I mean, it
Something
came out around the same time, so yeah, it makes
there's
sense.
something about the eyes of the characters that are just mesmerizing to me.
Yeah. I find it odd. Like for a mystery thriller, this movie is oddly relaxing.
Except for those brief moments where there's a violent death.
Yeah. Well, it's more of like
I was thrown off by that first death in the beginning.
yeah. It feels like this movie is like a in between like bursts of high tension and action. It's like more contemplative, relaxing things. I thought a lot of the conversations were pretty interesting. So yeah, it kind of feels like police procedural, but with like more depth to it. How'd you think of it conceptually? You know, the idea to hack into someone's mind. Because I thought that shit was fucking terrifying, and I think they thoroughly explored the horrors of it. You know, when that dude was like, they're interrogating that dude, and it was like, you don't have a wife, and just seeing him like that expression on his face, it was like, oh,
Yeah.
that fucked me up. Like the Matrix kind of explored, you know, how daunting it is to learn your life is a lie. But this movie, like, it really explored
That
how
takes a more
daunting it is.
personal approach.
Yeah, this one
Mhm.
was like more of like, oh, what? Like, cause like Neo in the Matrix, he never asked like, so is my mom not my real mom? Like, he never asked that question because that would be such an uncomfortable conversation to have. This movie does have that conversation essentially. Like, what if your wife wasn't real, but you thought she was, and then you realize that oh, she's not real? I guess it freaked me out, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
But speaking of the Matrix, yeah, it's pretty clear to see the influence that this movie had.
yeah, like visuals
Like
and themes, you can
yeah, like
tell.
even like the
Yeah.
green coding at the beginning in the opening credits.
Yeah, and you can obviously tell Trinity was very clearly took some inspiration from the Major as
Mhm.
well as
The plugs on the characters' bodies.
yeah, in the back of the necks, and even like
Mhm.
the Major's partners very clearly like has some visual influence with Morpheus, you know, with the glasses or his eyes, however it is. Oh, one of the visual things I like is I like this is towards the end of the movie, but I like how similar the Major looks to that puppet master thing. Like they have the exact same face essentially. It's just they're blonde, and even later in the movie they have the line that they're mirror images of each other, and like they meant like mentally, but like I thought, hey, it's kind of cool that they kind of put the visual to it too, where they do look pretty much the same except with the different hair color.
That part was pretty disturbing to me.
Yeah, this movie is able to juggle a bunch of different tones pretty well. I feel. I thought, well, what'd you think of the characters? You know, the Major and all of them.
I think uh Kusanagi, I believe her name was,
Yeah,
probably the best
Major
character in
Kusanagi.
the film because she goes through so much.
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
this fucked up reality.
Yeah, it's interesting how much personality they're able to mine out of her, despite being pretty stoic. Honestly, I think she's a better protagonist than Neo.
Yeah.
Because I honestly feel like performance-wise, The Matrix was pretty much carried by Morpheus and Agent Smith, but like character-wise here, I kind of think it's a bit stronger. I like the conversations they had, like with the deep sea diving stuff, or like
Yeah, that was a great scene.
yeah, and
The elevator conversation.
yeah, all that stuff was pretty strong.
Yeah.
A lot of the visual ideas are pretty cool. The suitcase gun.
Oh my god, that gave me a laugh for some reason.
Yeah, it's kind of
I
funny.
don't know
It's also
why.
kind of cool. Like I want to buy like a toy of the suitcase gun. Like that'd be so sick.
Just don't bring it to an airport.
Oh yeah,
jeez.
Jesus. Some of the explosions are pretty well. Like I thought it was really cool when like with the explosions, because it's anime, you can really see the details of it all. But you could also see that it's like a mix of like human biology, but there's also like wires and stuff popping out, and it was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So they visualize like the cyborg thing pretty well.
Especially
on the
near the
Japan-
end when Kusanagi was fighting that robot and she tried tearing it open.
Yeah.
Based on what I've seen of the Japanese animated movies that I've seen, the Japanese, they love them some water and some goop.
Jesus, man, when I make you guys watch Evangelion, that's gonna be wild.
Oh boy.
Not on the podcast. Evangelion's like a whole ass TV show. That's just a show I think you guys should just watch on your own time someday.
All right.
Because I love it. Like it's a 10 out of 10. Jesus, I can talk about Evangelion all. In fact, I think Evangelion like thematically shares some stuff here, so you might actually dig Evangelion a lot between both of these. But yeah, a lot to digest. I guess if there's any movie we've seen already in the podcast I compare it to, it'd be The Wall. Yeah, so it's kind of like The Wall. There's a lot to digest in this movie.
Yeah, this
Lot
isn't
to think
really a
about.
movie that you can understand on your first sitting. It's still a great
Yeah.
movie for your first sitting, but if you're trying to take in everything and understand what it's about, hell no, you're gonna need to watch a video essay for that, or watch it a second or third, maybe even a fourth time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what
basically,
I
I would.
actually did. I saw a couple of video essays on it.
Yeah, this was like my third time watching it, so I got it pretty good this time around. But I'd say this movie is much more like Blade Runner than The Matrix, because The Matrix kind of just took Blade Runner and like Ghost in the Shell and made it much more accessible and mainstream. But Blade Runner and Ghost in the Shell, they are a bit more heady movies. But yeah, I think this movie is about as good as The Matrix. I'd give it a 9 out of 10 too. Maybe not a 10 out of 10, but ranking wise, I'd put this like probably right below The Matrix. I'd put The Matrix like above Scream, by the way.
I'd say this is like an 8.5 out of 10 for me. This is still damn good.
Yeah.
I just didn't like enjoy it overall as much as The Matrix. But
Yeah,
I think
I
this was
th-
still like a really interesting dive into the origin of like so many of these modern science fiction series and franchises that we're getting now, and how
Yeah, I
they
think
adapted from this movie.
yeah, Ghost in the Shell is more complex than The Matrix, but I think The Matrix has better entertainment value.
Yeah, The Matrix is much more accessible.
Yeah.
Then again, we're American.
Oh, The Matrix actually broke box office records in Japan. At least the sequels did. So Japan, they like The Matrix quite a bit. One thing I found interesting is I mentioned when I saw The Matrix for the first time, it felt like I already seen it before because so many other movies influenced it. I found it interesting when you watch this, you can see where a lot of movies drew influence from it, but still feels like pretty unique. Like there's no like one-to-one I can really point out.
It's not
I will
that
say
the other movies are a carbon copy of this. They borrow ideas, but they adapt it in their own way, which I appreciate.
yeah.
It feels
I will
much
s-
more unique than say like Inception versus Paprika, and even then, I think that Inception is different from Paprika.
I will say the opening, in the opening where Major Jump falls off the roof, that reminded me of Spider-Verse. Because there's a scene in Spider-Verse where he just falls off the building.
Yeah, the "What's Up Danger" scene.
And then she equips the melee invisible cloak.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's all I thought of when she turned invisible.
Kind of went a bit crazy on the nipples though. I know what the purpose was. It's just kind of funny. Like, imagine watching that with your parents. But yeah, very good movie. Both of these, so check them out. If you like both of them, some other movies you can check out is Blade Runner and its sequel, Blade Runner 2049. I'd also recommend Minority Report, which also I'd honestly say Minority Report was kind of the blueprint for all of these things. The movie is very clearly drew some influence from these, so that's an interesting thing too. You know, read the book, see how it influenced all these movies, and then see the movie and see how it got influenced by all these movies that were influenced by the book. I'd also recommend the anime Psychopaths, which the anime Psychopaths basically is like a Minority Report anime. It's like the exact same premise, but they take it a different direction. You could also check out the anime movie, The Animatrix, which is an anthology series, which is a bunch of different short stories in the Matrix universe. Also, check out the Pluto manga. That's based on Astro Boy, but it basically covers a similar idea of cyborgs and androids and stuff, artificial intelligence and all that. Also, check out Ex Machina, and there's some other animes. I already mentioned these anime previously in the episode, but Serial Experiment Slaying, Perfect Blue, Evangelion, they all got kind of similar themes. And one non-cyberpunk sci-fi movie I think shares some ideas is Snowpiercer. Snowpiercer even's like end scene is kind of similar to the end scene of Matrix Reloaded. But yeah, so check out those. Whose turn is it to recommend today?
It's back to Lugia.
I thought it was
Lugia.
Patrick's turn.
No, because remember you guys switched.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, I
so-
didn't.
We're going back to schedule now.
Yeah.
All right, I did
Next-
not give
next
this
week is
much
Patrick.
thought, but all right, you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah.
You can give us choices like last time if you want.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't even have time to think about choices. So you know what? I'm gonna say fuck it. We're doing Spider-Man 3.
All right.
Oh boy. All right.
All right. Do you want us to watch the previous stuff? Or, like, okay, we don't have to watch
You
previous
can if
stuff.
you want to. I actually
but if
saw
you
the
want
first
to.
movie again not that long ago.
Yeah. I have Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man 2 is like one of my favorite movies of all time. So I definitely want to talk about that.
All right. So yeah, I'll probably give the first two a watch. I mean, I've seen the first one. I've not the second. So I think
oh.
I think it's a good idea.
Definitely watch Spider-Man 2 because this like
Will do.
directly follows up on plot lines from Spider-Man 2.
And for the record, we're talking
Okay.
about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3, not No Way Home, which isn't even
There-
out yet.
Well, yeah, we can't talk about No Way Home.
There's only
we
one
can talk about
third
the
Spider-Man
trailer if
movie
we really
so
want
far.
to.
We can probably discuss it next week, especially since the Raimi characters are reappearing in the movie.
All right. So our first sequel.
Without even discussing the original film.
And that's the best part.
Listen,
Yeah. I mean, we
Red
basically
said
are
he
gonna be
wanted to
talking
do
about
Godfather
Spider-Man 2.
3 before any of us got a chance to watch Godfather 1 and 2. Nah, I beat you to it.
Yeah, but we've seen Spider-Man 1 and
Patrick,
Okay,
you
but
said
yeah.
you didn't watch Spider-Man 2.
All right,
I'm
yeah,
going
fair
to. I'm going to before
All
I
right.
jump into 3.
Alright.
yeah, okay. So next week we're gonna be talking about Spider-Man 3, and we're probably gonna lightly touch up on the entire trilogy at the beginning.
Yeah. Brief thoughts. So that
Yeah.
should be fun.
But yeah, it's cool. We're going to be talking about first Raimi movie, which I'm very surprised I was the one to bring up Sam Raimi, considering he is like my favorite director. Remember to hit that red pill and put on the notification bell. Wake up from the Matrix, fight the system, facts over feelings, Ben Shapiro.
Free your mind.
Free your mind. Also, trans rights, because might as well throw that in. Huh? This is our third LGBT movie, if you want to think about it, technically speaking. Oh, god damn it. I just realized something.
But
I recommended every LGBT. I keep recommending gay movies.
that's fine.
Oh, it's fine. It's just a weird coincidence that I'm the one that's keep like, hell yeah, let's watch this weird indie movies about LGBT stuff, and then let's watch this trans allegory movie. Like,
Let's watch this
Weird
movie about a
coincidence.
cheerleader. Surely it's purely innocent. I mean, it's about a cheerleader. Oh.
What about
Oh.
this movie about a handmaiden?
all right. You could kind of tell the handmaid was going to get fucked up. I mean, it's from the director of Old Boy. But yeah.
All right.
Yeah, all right. That's the outro. Goodbye.